Good afternoon. My name is Neil Bradley. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer here at the Chamber of Commerce. We are so excited to be hosting this third summit, in part because it's a chance to celebrate the progress that is already being made, and you heard a little bit about that from Rick and Suzanne, but also to talk about a really bright and optimistic future of all the things that we're going to be doing going forward. I couldn't be more honored to be joined today by Don Cravens. Don has a brand new job. He is on his 5th week as the Undersecretary for the Minority Business Development Agency. You just heard Suzanne mention that in 2020, we were pleased at the U.S. Chamber to support legislation that made the MBDA permanent and expanded it and created for the first time the position of Undersecretary that Don is privileged to hold as the first Undersecretary. He has a long history of working on the issues that MBDA is charged with, from his time at the National Urban League, from his service in the U.S. Senate on the Senate Small Business Committee, and his ongoing service to our nation as a major in the Army Reserve's JAG Corps here in Washington, D.C. So Don, thanks for your service.
Thanks
for,
Thank you.
As you're getting settled in, coming and spending some time with us as we kick off this summit.
Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to all of our friends and family who are watching. I tell you, just sitting in this audience today and listening to Rick and Suzanne speak today, Neil, I will tell you, that is why I'm honored to be in the position that I'm in. I am optimistic that for the first time in a long time, maybe even the first time in our nation's history, there are men and women from all makes and models, both sides of the aisle, who I think get it, that we're going to be a stronger country, a more resilient nation if we work together, and that everybody has a chance, as Rick said, just an opportunity to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But for so long, so many people have not had boots and not had straps. And to hear the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and to see Rick Wade and I see Tom Sullivan. Tom and I talked about these things years ago. To see this commitment gives me some hope, some real hope that we can actually, as a country, as a nation, move forward, to be stronger, to be better. This is about America. And so I'm honored to be here today, looking forward to talking to you. But again, I want to just thank your leadership. Thank you. As well. I also have to say I have a cousin who works for you all, Monique Theory, in Louisiana, who I know is watching. And she and I, these are issues that your local chambers have been talking about for a long, long time. And so it's just good to be here in Washington to hear you all bring it together at this summit.
This is not in my script. I have to tell you, I'm a little upset with the team right now because I was not informed that Monique is your cousin. Monique, I'm a little upset that you didn't give me some stories to press.
Well, that's
Don
on purpose. That's on purpose, Neil. You don't need to know my story.
So you're going to have to come back after I talk to Monique, and we're going to have to do this over again with some stories from your cousin. But let's jump into the work. MBDA, what are you trying to do? What are your top priorities? What are you hoping to achieve? Well,
thank you for the question. As you said at the beginning, and you, Suzanne, and Rick pointed out, the MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency, was started in 1969 by President Nixon. And it was a temporary idea, a temporary agency with the idea that maybe at that time, we're talking about right after the Civil Rights Movement, it's important to make sure that minority business owners have a place to go, a place to turn to. Every president since President Nixon kept the agency around, but no president, no Congress had made the agency permanent. In the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, both Republicans and Democrats worked together to make the agency permanent for the first time. And as you said, Neil, it really did 3 things. One, it created an undersecretary position. Now, those of you in Washington understand kind of what that model is. You've got a secretary, a deputy secretary, and then an undersecretary. So a pretty high level position. I was appointed by the president and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. It also expanded the reach of the agency. So the agency has about 76 centers located all across America to help businesses of color and others. We don't turn people away when they walk into our doors. And the act says, we want you to do that, and we want you to expand on it. We want you to go to more rural communities. We want you to create regional offices so that you've got folks that you can touch in the regions of the country. And then the third thing the act mandates, it's a great job description for me. It says, we want you to be more intentional about the work that you do. We want you to go to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on a Thursday afternoon. I think today's Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday afternoon. And we want you to talk to people and to talk to private citizens, private corporations, talk to other government agencies, and talk about the importance of minority business issues and some of the barriers and challenges that some of our minority business enterprises are facing. So I couldn't have asked for a better job description. It's why I accepted the role. I had a great job at the National Urban League. But I chose this role and chose to come back to government, Neil, because I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do this work. And when I come to places like the U.S. Chamber and I hear Suzanne Clark and Rick Wade and Neil Bradley and others talking about these issues, it lets me know that I made the right decision.
Well, you're very kind to say that. I want to know what you're hearing, though, because one of the most important things, and you said this, is getting out of Washington, the 76 centers, literally hearing from people on the ground about their challenges and opportunities. So what are minority business owners? What are those who want to be minority business owners who come through those doors? What are they telling you?
I'm hearing a disconnect between what they're hearing from Washington, that we have invested bipartisan infrastructure bill of $1.2 trillion, and this is going to create new infrastructure for our country. This is going to provide broadband to people who maybe have not been able to have it or access it or afford it in the past. This is going to change the bridges and the roads and the schools. And those business owners are concerned, and I don't know if it was Suzanne or Rick who said it, that they may not have a part to play in doing that. One, they want to have a part to play in it because they believe they understand the needs of the community better than those of us in Washington may. Two, it's economics. I can do this work. Why not allow me to participate? And so I think what I'm hearing in the community is that we don't want to miss this opportunity. Many of our business owners, as you know, Neil, just based upon our history, African Americans, we missed the agricultural revolution. We missed the industrial revolution. We don't want to miss this revolution. We don't want to miss this once in a lifetime, once in a generation investment in our communities that men and women on both sides of the aisle fought very hard to get past. And so I'm hearing that our businesses are concerned about access to capital, access to contracts. And where I hope that the chamber will play a role is, one, continuing to do the work that you do to help those businesses. You represent small businesses too, right? I mean, you're supposed to be partners of the MBDA because we work together. We serve the same folks. And then I'm hoping some of your larger members will look at opportunities to help beef up some of those small businesses so that maybe they can do some of that government work that they weren't prepared to do in the past. So mentorship, mentor-protege, partnering, helping, being creative. A lot of your members made promises after the murder of George Floyd and said, we know we have to be more intentional. One way they could be more intentional is finding businesses that just need that spark, that acceleration, that incubation, and get those people ready to do work. It'll make our country stronger and more resilient, and it'll create jobs and better the economy.
So we have people here in the audience, we have people joining online. We're going to have a lot of people who are going to come back to this conversation. Let's take the charge that you just appropriately gave businesses across the country, associations like the Chamber. How do we take that charge and turn it into work? What is the very practical steps that we can do to make sure that minority businesses know about the opportunities, have access to compete for those opportunities, and have access to the credit that they need or the resources that they might need to land that contract, to win that bid, to participate in that supply chain?
Great question, Neil. I think they can do two things. There's work that needs to be done externally, and then there's work that needs to be done internally. So on the external side, it's leveraging partnerships with the Minority Business Development Agency, the Small Business Administration, government agencies that have a track record, and there are plenty of state and local agencies that do the same work. Leveraging those relationships, those are the agencies, nonprofits, the nonprofits that you've partnered with in the past, leveraging those relationships. Internally, there's work to be done too. I see my friend Gigi Dixon here. Your partners have work to do internally. They need to work on diversity internally. They need to work on their boards. They need to work on governance. you're going to be stronger, you're going to make more money the more diverse that you are. The reason why that's important too is when things in our country happen, having people from those communities, from that walk of life, be able to explain why those things may be happening will make you a better company, will make you a stronger company. Many companies missed the moment during George Floyd and during the pandemic because they didn't have the people there even to help them message for the moment, right? I would never build a company of just Southwest Louisiana Creole people, Black Creole people. Like we'd have fun, we'd have some good food and good music, but we would miss the moment. I would miss the moment because that's not who my customer can't be the only customer base that I have. And so I think companies can work externally with partners that they know don't redo the wheel, as Suzanne said. They're HBCUs, there are other partners. And then I think there's some work that has to be done internally.
This is intentional networking in some
Absolutely.
ways. You know, when you think about, if you go to a local Chamber of Commerce meeting, in addition to the classic rubber chicken,
yes,
not as good as the food in Southwest Louisiana. You probably have better food.
We have great food at our local chambers in Louisiana. Yes.
It's as much about whatever the policy topic is. It's not as much about that. It's about the networking that goes on.
Absolutely.
And people opportunities. I know of some chambers, I'm thinking of the New Jersey Chamber, for example, that's become very intentional about their networking and their partnership with the African American Chamber
yes.
of New Jersey, of really building in connectivity in constant meetings, reoccurring meetings in their boards. Are there other examples of this kind of intentional networking that you've seen done really well?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about our ethnic and our chambers of color. I just was in Phoenix this week. That's why I didn't know what day of the week it was, at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce convention. What a wonderful place. People who are doing it right, who are fighting very hard to make sure our Latino and Hispanic brothers and sisters have a chance to achieve the American dream. Your partners, the U.S. Chamber, can absolutely look at those partnerships. They want those partnerships. And I think there's an argument that can be made. Sometimes the argument is, if we're being transparent as Americans, why do we need a Hispanic chamber or a Black chamber or an Asian chamber when we've got the U.S. Chamber? Because they can complement one another. You are there to help all businesses, and the U.S. Chamber, under your leadership, Suzanne's leadership, Rick, Latricia, the rest of you, you're doing the best you can to serve all of those businesses. The ethnic chambers, those chambers that focus on a specific group, there's surgical precision sometimes that can help people from a different background, a different way of life, address certain systemic barriers that maybe they're facing. In America. We have to acknowledge that some of those things exist. And the best way to fix them is to acknowledge them and get rid of them, rather than fighting about them. Let's just acknowledge them, get rid of them, and let's move our country forward.
You know, it's, during the pandemic, Rick had the excellent idea of convening meetings with the minority chambers of commerce from around the country. And what we learned from listening to them and to the unique problems improved our ability to be advocates with the administration, with Congress, about the Paycheck Protection Program,
yes.
about the information that wasn't getting to people that we assumed was getting to people, even about this kind of prompt payment issue that we're now working to address with some of our large members. So I think you're exactly right. There's so much learning that can kind of go on for everyone involved there.
But then when the chamber created the position to bring on someone like a Rick Wade and others, you allowed yourself to be educated. And that is the comment I was making earlier about this internal that I'm recommending to your members. I'm not here to preach to you, but because of what you just said, is why all of our systems work better in this country when we're diverse. Even at the MBDA. I am building a diverse team. I'm recruiting, by the way. We're looking for folks who want to come and work on minority business issues, but I have to build a diverse team because I need to know people from all walks of life, and I need the diverse opinions. I need to learn things that I just, as being a Southwest Louisiana boy, I just never understand until someone tells me we don't do it that way in Pennsylvania or somewhere else. And so you just made the argument, I think, why diversity at the C-suite level, in the employment level, and I would argue even at the board level matters. It made you all better.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to look, we have just a minute left. I want to ask you to look to the future. This is our 3rd annual summit. When we do our 6th annual summit, so an equal amount of time from when we started to today, what is it that you hope that we're talking about, that we are talking about the success of the prior 3 years or prior 6 years, and where do you think we'll be going in 3 years from now?
In 3 years, I hope that I'm sitting in the audience and I've got a job where I'm able to feed my family. No, in 3 years, I hope that I'm able to say to you all, we built two things. One, the country did not miss the moment. That we invested in ourselves, not only economically and financially, but we invested in our businesses, and we created wealth and generational change for all sorts of Americans. I hope I'm able to look you in the face, Neil, and say, and I created a foundation along with the men and women at the MBDA who are there now for a new agency that 20 years down the road will be a very impactful agency. I hope someday the MBDA works itself out of work, works itself into being obsolete.
I love that. I love that. What a fantastic aspiration, and what a great goal to orient people towards. Sadly, we're going to have to leave it there, Don.
Well, thank you.
It is an honor to be able to work with you, to work with your team. Thank you for being willing to come back to government.
My pleasure.
To take on this really critical role. Foundations turn out to be really important. Having the right leaders to build the right foundations, particularly early on, is so important. And that's why I know everyone's going to join me in expressing gratitude to you for being the first undersecretary, taking on this challenge, and building that foundation for everyone else.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.